The following brands have in one way or another contributed to this video.
In this video, everything you wanted to know about Audient Sono, the guitar recording interface. What its price and where to get it, what's inside of the box. We'll go through the specs and features, check how big and heavy it is, open the unit and take a look inside, listen to what it sounds like with guitar pedals, and an external preamp. We'll connect it to a computer and check the software mixer, and tweak the built-in cabinet simulation with Torpedo Remote. We'll make a reamping attempt, and try Sono with a Mac and mobile devices. We'll check the digital inputs, and measure the monitoring latency. And it's all coming up right now.
Hello everyone, here is Max, and in this video we're going to be looking at Sono, the new guitarist-oriented audio interface from Audient.
At least that's what the official website tells us, and the first thing you see is that Sono is not built like a traditional audio interface, but more like a guitar pedal. It has an onboard tube preamp with 3-band tone control, and onboard DSP with 2 notes torpedo built into it, which means you have a tube preamp from Audient and then a power amp and a cabinet simulation from 2 notes. It already comes with 20 cabinets, but you can always add more. 10 inputs, 2 on board, and 8 more can be provided from an external preamp. And it also comes with a free software package from these brands. You will find it at any major retailer. For example, at Tomon it is now 449 euros. You will find a link to Tomon below. In the UK it's going to be 415 pounds. In the United States 449 US dollars. 日本ではサウンドハウスで46500円です。В России официальным дистрибьютором Audient является Pop Music, смотрите цены там. Okay, here's the box. It once again says Sono has 10 inputs and 4 outputs. There is a feature list on the other side of the box, and definitely one of the most attractive features is the built-in 2 notes cabinet simulation. Okay, let's open this box. Here we have a quick start guide, and it says, finally, an interface for guitarists. And this is an overview of Sono's functions and connection options. Okay, what else do we have here? Oh, very nice. 5 different attachments for the power supply. So it truly is international and will work anywhere in the world. And here's the power supply itself. 12 volts, 2 amps, which is a lot actually. And by the way, it's not compatible with your guitar pedals. Okay, I will use the UK plug for this one. What's next? Here we have a USB to USB-C cable to connect Sono to a computer. Oh, and there is one more, USB-C to USB-C. Some laptops are equipped with USB-C ports these days, so this one is going to be useful too. And finally, let's unwrap the unit. Here it is.
Okay, let's take a closer look at the unit, and let's begin here, because here we've got a guitar input, which is a high Z input, so you can go with your guitar directly into the interface. 2 amp output for reamping, for example, or if you want to send a signal to your pedal board. And this is a headphones output. On the top, we've got the most interesting, the guitar section, which includes the tube, first of all. You can see this is a 12AX7 tube from JJ, apparently. And then there's a 3-band EQ, and these knobs have a so-called mid-stop, so they cannot stop at 12 o'clock, and it's easy to set them right in the middle. Alright, this is the input gain control for the tube stage. The next knob controls the amount of gain in the power amp section, which is nothing else but a Torpedo 2 notes built into Sono. And this is the master volume control for the entire guitar section. And you will see how loud it is at the level meter right here. So if the signal is too hot or bad, you're gonna have to turn this down a bit. Next to it, on the right side, you can pick one of 3 predefined cabinet simulations with this knob, and this is just a power LED, such as you know that the unit is turned on. Next, we've got gain controls for inputs 1 and 2, which are on the back side, and volume controls for monitor or main output, which is on the back as well, and for the headphones output, which we have already seen on the front. And this is a quick monitor mix knob, which controls the balance between your inputs and whatever is coming from your computer or your DAW. Alright? On the back, we've got 2 combined XLR TRS inputs. This may be microphone or line inputs, and you can also enable phantom power for these, and you will see that on the front here. The first input can also be routed to the tube or to the guitar channel, and if you activate this option, the green LED will turn on. On the back, we also have monitor outputs or main outputs left and right. These are balanced TRS connectors, optical in for an external preamp or converter. We'll check that option later on. USB-C connector to connect Sono to a computer. Ground hole to connect a ground wire apparently. Power supply connector with positive center, so your standard guitar pedal power supply will not work, especially that this one needs 2 amps, which is a lot. So you better use a power supply that comes with Sono. And a power switch. There is one thing I have to mention. Without any external device plugged into the optical input, Sono has only 2 inputs on its own. And this input on the front, which is a guitar input, is basically the same as input 1 on the back. So as soon as anything gets plugged into here, this one gets disabled. Okay, let's check the weight of this thing. 1.2 kilo, 2.7 pounds. Well, you don't need it in ounces, do you? 1.2 kilo it is. And speaking of size, it is this big. If you want to compare it to guitar pedals, Sono is definitely bigger than most of those, and by some extraordinary coincidence, it is actually the same height as the preamps. Speaking of size, it's almost twice as big as this Le Crunch here, so I would rather compare it to some big tube preamp or unit like this maybe, rather than to a small pedal. Something like this. I hope this helps.
It's time to avoid the warranty. Let's open the unit and take a look inside. Okay, that was one. Let's go to the next level.
Oh, okay, these 3 pieces here should go off as well. That's a pretty nice build. Every single part is here for a reason. I like that. Very simple, elegant, and solid at the same time.
So that's the enclosure, which is probably alone like 60% of the weight. And here's the board. As always, analog devices, Shark DSP. I really like these tiny resistors here, they're so cool. 12AX7 tube from JJ. Now that you've seen everything, don't try this at home. Not only you will avoid the warranty, but you may ruin the unit and, in the worst case scenario, hurt yourself. Okay, let's listen to what it sounds like, and let's begin with the standalone mode. I mean, it is probably built as a guitar pedal for a reason, such as you can put it into your pedal board. So let's put it into one and check how it works with other pedals. My guitar is connected to the loop core, overdrive, chorus, and Sono, and I'll be recording the sound from the headphones output. Now the cabinet simulation is disabled, and you can clearly hear that if I turn on the overdrive. Here we've got 3 different presets with a power amp and a cabinet simulation, and I can activate them by pressing and holding the cap button. Pressing it multiple times will scroll through presets, and if I want to turn it off, I simply press and hold it once again. Now let's turn it on and check what it sounds like. Okay, now let's record some pattern, then do some tweaking and see what happens.
As you could just hear, Sono is very pedal friendly, and this guitar section lets you tweak everything in a very traditional way we guitarists are used to. With that said, if you're gonna be using Sono in this pedal board scenario, it can be your preamp, power amp and a cabinet simulation in one, and it does the job. But what if you want to use some other preamp with it? Well, in this case, it is possible to completely bypass Sono's guitar preamp stage, which consists of the EQ and the input gain stage. Let me show you how it works. I'm using these two nodes lead preamp, but instead of going into the guitar input, I'm using the first line input on the back of the unit. This knob controls the input gain then, and all these knobs except for the drive are disabled. Because the Torpedo is enabled, the drive knob controls the power amp saturation. If at any time you feel like you want to bring the built-in preamp back, simply press the 2-valve button on the back of the unit, and this will enable the EQ and these two knobs. Good, now let's check how Sono works with the computer. It is already plugged in and turned on, and after installing the software package that comes with Sono on Windows 10, you will find this S logo in the tray. Simply right-click on it, and already here you can do a couple of different things like set the buffer size or sampler rate, and also enable or disable the software mixer. Now it is disabled, which means this knob will work as a monitor mixer. Let me show you what I mean. I will be using the virtual instrument Pigments from Arturia. Here is what it looks like. Let's select Sono as the output audio interface here in settings, which means we have to choose Audient USB audio as your driver. Good, analog 1 and 2 outputs, that is correct. 2.9 milliseconds, 44, let's set it to 48 kilohertz. Very good. Right now, all Sono's outputs, headphones output and the main outputs are connected to my other audio interface, such as we can check how these three knobs work. Now let's play a note on the keyboard and hold it with the sustain pedal, and this would be the headphones volume and main output volume. My guitar is plugged into the guitar input, and this knob controls the balance between my guitar and whatever is coming from the computer. Now, if I open the software mixer, first of all, it will tell me that this knob will be disabled and the software mixer will be used instead. Here's what it looks like. You can see my guitar on channels 1 and 3. Channel 3 is the same as channel 1, but without torpedo emulation. That's why it's called no cap. So it is the dry signal, so to speak. And the software synth will be coming on channels DAW1 and 2. The second channel, mic 2, is for the second line input on the back of the unit, and channels DG1 to DG8 are for the external converter or preamp, which is not connected right now, but we'll check that later on. And of course, you can mix all these signals any way you want. These three buttons here can hide or show different sections of the mixer. Mic for channels 1, 2 and 3, optical for digital inputs, and DAW. Let's bring them back. This button here is for the talkback, this one will make a mono signal out of stereo, and this one will enable the phase cancellation. These two buttons will mute the main or the headphones outputs, respectively. The Q tab is basically the same as the Master Mix tab, and it simply provides another mix that you can assign to another output. For example, right now, the main mix is assigned to headphones and the Q mix to main outputs. There are also a couple of different things you can adjust here if you need to. The other important part of the software package that comes with Sono is the 2 notes Torpedo Remote app that looks like this when it starts, but as you turn on the audio interface you will also see Sono here in the rack. Let's do that. If you happen to have any other connected 2 notes devices, they will appear right here in the rack as well. Okay, so this is what the main window looks like. There's a rack on the left and just a beautiful picture on the right with a studio and reverbs and stuff. There are 3 tabs, and let's begin here with Preset Manager. Here we have 3 presets A, B and C, and these are the same presets you see here on Sono, and you can scroll through them by pressing the Cap button. You can replace any of these with any other preset from your library, which is on the left side. The next tab, Cabinet Manager, shows what cabinets are already loaded into Sono, and if you happen to have any more cabinets from 2 notes, you can load them right here. It takes a while. Good, let's go back to the Arcade tab. We are on preset 001, which is preset A, and if I scroll through presets with this button on the interface here, the app will react as well. Of course, I can also pick a preset using this drop-down menu right here. Below, I can pick a cabinet. Let's go for this one, the one we just loaded. But I can also switch between them using this arrow right here. The next section is the power amp saturation, which you can turn off or run it very, very hot. You can also use the drive knob on the interface to adjust this, because these are linked. Okay, the next section is the tone knob, so to speak. And here you can adjust the position of the microphone. And of course, pick another kind of reverb using these 2 arrows here. The next section will dramatically affect the character of the sound.
And the final section right here sets the preset level and the overall output level. All changes can be saved right into the Sono. You might have noticed that there are a few limitations compared to other 2-nodes devices. For example, you can only use arcade mode, and even if you try to load a preset that requires a simulation mode, you will see this, it will not work. Also, it doesn't support third-party impulse responses. If you try to load one, you will see the same message. But still, with a good choice of cabinets and microphones, it can be really powerful. Another good thing about Sono is that it comes with a package of some additional free software, like for example this Cubase LE. Let's just create an empty project. Okay, let's go to settings and choose Sono as the audio interface. Yeah, switch. And here's what it looks like in Cubase. You have full access to all inputs and outputs. I will need the no cap input for this project and the 2 amp output as well, because I want to check how this additional amp output that Sono has works. So let's record some dry guitar track. It is supposed to be dry, let's check that. Sounds dry to me. Now let's connect some amp to this output here. Now that I have a dry track, I can use it with any of these amps for reamping. Let's go with this Hughes and Kettner here. Okay, the output level is too low, it's not pushing the amp the way it is supposed to, so I will give it another 12 dB here. Let's do it again. Now that sounds right, and that is how easy it is to reamp your guitars with Sono. If you happen to be on a Mac, well, first of all, my deepest condolences, and let's take a look at how it works here. Simply download the Sono software package from the official website, and it's pretty straightforward from there. Yes, I do want to install this software. Alright, done. 2 apps were installed, the software mixer for Sono and the Torpedo Remote. Just as it was with Windows, there's the S icon in the tray. Is it called tray on Mac? I have no idea. Anyway, it looks very similar to that one on Windows. Here's the mixer, it looks exactly the same. The only difference is that there is no direct way to set the sample rate. Here is what it looks like in the sound, output, and input settings. The Sono system panel looks exactly the same as the one on Windows and provides all the same settings. And here is what it looks like in the audio devices settings. I have no idea how I got here, but there's a list of inputs and outputs, and apparently here you can set the sample rate. Here's the list of input channels available from Sono in the Adobe Audition. It's not very transparent what they are, judging by how they labeled, but apparently it all works. And here's what it looks like in Cubase. And this one allows you to set the buffer size. And here, of course, you can label everything any way you want, which is good. Everything works, let's go to the next program, which is going to be Logic Pro. Here again, Sono works as a core audio device, and you will find all the settings in the Audio tab in the Preferences. And what I like here is that you can actually use channel labels provided by the driver. Just don't forget that the no cap input is going to be number 11, not number 3 as it is in Sono's mixer. As I mentioned before, the Torpedo Remote is getting installed as a part of the Sono's software package. On the first start, it will definitely ask you a couple of things. We'll try to update the firmware and stuff like that. And here you can actually see that I have 2 devices from 2 nodes connected to a computer at the same time. Therefore, I have 2 main windows. And as you can see, the cabsim window has much more settings and more tabs available. And that is normal, because these 2 have different functionality and hardware. But if I open the arcade tab on the cabsim, you will see that they look very similar. just like preset or cabinet manager tabs. It's just that cabsim has a plenty of cabinets installed and Sono only has a few, yet. You can always add more.
Sono actually comes with a hidden bonus. Even though it's not directly documented anywhere, Sono is a so-called class-compliant device, which means it will work with Android or even iOS devices. All I need for Android is an adapter like this, USB to micro USB or OTG adapter, as some people call them. Let's just try to connect it and see what happens. Alright, my tablet can see Sono. Yes, use the USB device. Here I can choose Sono as an audio input and output. I can set the sample rate and buffer size. The problem is that there are hundreds or maybe even thousands different Android devices, and there is no guarantee that Sono will work with yours. It took me quite some time to find settings that actually work. But anyway, Sono was not meant for that, so don't be surprised if it is a little bit unstable with Android. Okay, let's try to record something. Good, let's try the same thing with iOS, and for that I will need this ridiculously overpriced camera kit adapter. But with iOS you can actually do much more. With iOS you can do so much more because there are plenty of apps like Bias Effects or Amplitude and stuff like that. But if you're using Sono with mobile devices, you won't be able to access Sono's software mixer or control panel and 2Notes Remote.
This video would not be complete without checking each and every input and output of this device. And there is one we didn't check yet, the optical input. And for that, I have this pretty heavy preamp from Audient as well, ASP880. And this optical cable I've got from Tommen. And to be honest, I've never used any devices like this before, so I'm really curious how it's gonna work. So let's take it out of the box and try to put it together. This one has 8 additional inputs and must be the best match for Sono. Okay, I'm all set. I only need to plug this cable into Sono and I'm good to go. You can already see some guitar coming through. Now let me reconnect this mic to the preamp. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Okay, you can see this mic on channel 5 right now. Let's add some guitars. Okay, it works. Let's add some more signals on other channels. Okay, I can see something on channel 3 and 4. Beautiful. We've got multiple signals on multiple channels. It looks very nice. Everything works. It's all mixable, all good, just as expected. Speaking of this unit here, as I already mentioned, it has 8 channels with combined XLR TRS inputs on the back, but first 2 channels also have DI inputs on the front. Every channel has phantom power, high-pass filter, pad, and a couple of other things, but the special thing is the impedance switch for every channel, so you can actually match it to any source. Okay, it's time for the latency test, and I'm using my standard method, nothing special here. There is a splitter, one cable goes to the audio interface, the other one goes through Sono. It all explained in the details in the other video. I'll give you a link to it there and in the description below. So if you want to go into details, check those. Alright, the only thing I have to mention that Sono is set to 96 kHz to get the shortest latency possible, and of course I'm recording at 96 as well to get better resolution. So I have a scratch here, let's just press record. The cabinet simulation is turned off right now. Alright. That will be 28 samples. And let's convert it to milliseconds. 28 samples, 0.3 milliseconds, very short. Alright, now let's activate the cabinet simulation and do it once again to check the difference. And record. Okay, something like 302 samples. 302 samples, 3.15 milliseconds. Well, it's still pretty short. If I open the manual, there are these 2 numbers without Torpedo and with Torpedo, 0.3 and 3 milliseconds, which is very close to what we've just found out. It is time for a recap, but first of all, please leave the magic recipe you now see at the bottom of the screen in the comments below. Here are some of the specs. If you want more details, you'll find those at the official website, but obviously this audio interface stands out because of its guitar-oriented features and design. I mean, many audio interfaces today have a high Z input, but how many of those have a full tube preamp on board? Sono is able to replace a preamp, a power amp, and a speaker cabinet if you wanted to, and all of those as a standalone unit without any computer. The good thing is, it is very simple to use. It looks like a guitar amp and it pretty much works like one, in a very traditional way. I mean, even your grandma can easily figure out how to tweak it. But if for a second we forget about all these guitar-oriented features and look at it from the audio interface perspective, we'll find a few nice things as well. It is very solid, provides up to 10 inputs, has good quality preamps, and comes with free soft. On the other hand, because it is that solid, it is also heavier than other interfaces. I wish it had more outputs, I wish it had coax, SPDIF, and of course MIDI.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that subscribe button right there, and don't forget about the bell button to get notifications every time I'm posting a new video. A special thanks goes to people in the list below. Those are my patrons. If you want to say thanks, hit the button on the left and join the list. Well, that's it for now. Have a good day and I'll see you soon!